let's do Ionic and then take a break, and then do Android and iOS. So Ionic I've done a handful of things in. Android I've written an actual app, and iOS I like once tried something, okay? So that's my level of experience with these tools. So some of them I'll be able to answer more questions about, and others I won't. So let's look at Ionic. So here's a simple, so the tool chain here for Ionic is your text editor and your command line to sort of run the app, and your Chrome device inspector. That's that thing I just showed you, the Chrome device inspector. The concepts you want to care about are MVC in the browser. This is Angular. The languages are JavaScript, CSS, and HTML using Angular. The sort of visual model for this is that you have a route and a controller configured in that file that I showed you that sets up how things get routed to what code. You have HTML templated views, so you write HTML with special curly braces that put variables in them, right? And special if instructions, so you have like a templating language in HTML. And when you click something, you respond to that by actually linking with state. So it basically links over to a different controller, and it says, hey, here's the state. And the state is kind of like, one model is it's the arguments on the URL, right? So anything after the question mark and stuff like that. So you pass that to the next controller. So that's the sort of visual model of going from one screen to the next, okay? I'll show you that for each app so you get a sense of what's going on. So let me show you Android next. So Android, the tool is this thing called Android Studio, which I talked about earlier, which I'll show you now. The concepts you want to care about are an activity, an intent, and a service. I'll describe those in a second. And the languages are Java and XML, right? So most of the coding is in Java, and you configure the UI in XML or a visual editor that I'll show you in a sec. So in Android, that same set of motions, each kind of screen that you want to think about is an activity, right? So that's an activity shows you something, right? And intent transitions from one activity to another. So the transitions aren't sort of links with state. The transition is an intent. And you say, OK, my intent is to switch from the list of all the places to information about this particular place. So an intent, you tell it what activity you want to go to and any arguments. And then you say, go do this. And the views aren't HTML templating or anything. They're XML views and fragments, which are sort of the reusable widgets. A fragment is like a reusable widget that you can embed in larger views. So that's the sort of language that you want to think about for Android. Yeah, yeah, and that's why you sort of need to pick what you want to invest in. Because like I know a lot of programming languages, and it's taken me a lot of time to learn them, but there's way more I don't know, like iOS, right? So there's only so much you can learn. So it's worth investing. That's why if you want to be able to produce a lot of stuff, it's really useful to invest in the web stack, because you can do a ton with it, right? Thanks to things like Ionic. So Android, the main language is Java. iOS, in general, the toolchain is Xcode. It's the equivalent of Android Studio. They have similar, MVC is a similar concept. The storyboard is your visual layout of your app. A sandbox is a way to try stuff out really quickly to see if it works. They have all these libraries that they call something kit. Like they have a database kit that helps you access the database well. They have like a health kit if you want to save stuff in their health and access the health stuff. They have home kit if you want to talk to devices in a house that speak the same protocol. So anything with a kit is like a library that does something. Target action is like how you connect stuff that's clicked to stuff that you want to run. And delegates, probably not worth talking over. You write in Objective-C or Swift. So in the same idea of what the UI is and what the controllers are, so the view controller is the controller in this model. They call it a view controller. The UI depictions are storyboarded views. So they're Apple, so they went with like storyboard as their designing language. And instead of an intent here, it's called a transition. Okay, so you make a transition from one view controller to another. Each view controller has a storyboarded view that backs it up. Okay, that's the visual language for this. Like I said, I'm not an iOS developer, so I want to show you something that's a much smaller and easier to use playground so that you can make something quickly.